All right, we'll let people come in for a second. If you guys want to view the stream, you can. The trick is just to turn the volume down, obviously. Like if Brandon wants to view it there.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Let people. And there's a slight delay.
Yep. Oh, I remember doing this a lot. Hmm.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to another Office Hours. We're super excited to have Kyle Evans with us today from Austin, Texas. Kyle is someone that I've only gotten to know more recently in person, and thankfully we have met in person. Often we do these. I've never met the person, so I've actually been out to Austin, Texas, and gotten to hang with Kyle a bit. And yeah, there's some incredible stuff out there. But let me introduce Kyle first. He's a new media artist, sound designer, educator, and performer. Although I do believe all of those terms are selling Kyle drastically short. He's the co-founder of Data Lab. If you don't know Data Lab, I highly recommend checking it out. Incredible audio-visual, multi-channel, educational space out there, along with also Data Geek that Kyle runs. He's also professor of immersive media at the University of Texas, School of Design and Creative Technologies. Kyle, welcome to Office Hours.
Thank you. It's a great to be here. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. The moment we really connected, I was like, I've got to have him on Office Hours at some point. Like, this guy's got a story. So,
Yeah.
Kyle, what? How did we end up here? How did you end up here? Like, where did you first get into audiovisual arts? I'm curious because these are some of the backstory that I'm not privy to.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know necessarily, but like I guess I can try to figure it out, like where it started. I'm not sure. Do you remember back in like the like late 90s, early 2000s when turntablism was like really hot?
Yes.
So I asked for Christmas from my parents when I was in the eighth grade for two turntables and a mixer, and then that's when I started digging in crates at like half price books and all these places that were like finding collecting music then. And I think that was my like exposure to like all this world of like electronic music and all that kind of stuff. Punk rock as well came through all of that. And then I guess that was like kind of like the first time I started playing with like music as an instrument in some kind, you know, and playing with it and thinking about it as a musical form, and like playing in bands and stuff. I wasn't until I was older, like when I was in college, that I started getting more into like sound and focusing on sound, mostly like video post production stuff. I was like sound
Mm.
design. I was really interested in that because I was really interested in like video production and things, and I thought that was going to be where I was going. And then once I was in school, I realized I got really into the idea of performance with electronics and performance with like with computers and making weird sounds and performing them. And eventually, that's when I kind of folded back into my video roots and started implementing video with it as well. And so it
Right,
all kind of like
right.
came together over like a stretch. It like definitely was not a targeted output by any means. It just kind of like all just started happening and coming together in different ways.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens, I think. Like, what is the flame that ignites the interest and sometimes it can be getting some obscure piece of equipment randomly, subverting it or something like that, or yeah, turntables and a mixer. Uh
Right. Yeah, I remember I got the turntables and the mixer, but also I was in a punk rock band when I was in high school as well, and we needed a PA system, so we put our money together and bought like this old PV system used from a Guitar Center, and inside of it was a beautiful like spring reverb tank. And I was like, "Oh
Ooh.
my God, this is amazing!" And then I got to understand like when I shake it, it makes sounds, and then I could open it up and play with it, and like so it was all those kinds of like pieces of tech that we're started to like explore and put together that just like all analog stuff and fiddling with things for a while.
Yeah, you remind me now of my kind of path into electronic music, and definitely getting your own PA system, whether it be even good or bad, is somewhat
Hmm.
of an empowering moment. You're like all of a sudden like I can put a gig on in my backyard. Like I
Yeah,
don't need a
exactly.
venue. Like yeah. It always still, it's funny, it still feels extreme when an individual owns their own PA system. Like they're serious.
Yeah,
Like
it's happening. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but having that ability to yeah, do it is incredible. And I only recently this is a side note, but I realized there's all these kind of guerrilla PA groups, particularly on the West Coast, and they're elsewhere in the world too, that make like they're a collective that create their own mega PA system, and then they, tour around with it or take it out to the forest and have raves.
Yep, yep,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, for some reason it never dawned on me that this is made by the collective and therefore they put on the events. I always somewhat I guess I thought that the raves in the forest they hired a PA system, but
Right. Yeah. Sometimes if you own the PA, you own the event as well.
right, right. Actually makes me think of Data Lab a little bit. Yeah,
Hmm.
which is
Yeah.
a cool story which we'll get to. You mentioned your kind of trajectory into working with sound was there was a video element there, and I actually did take a look at some of your past works, and there was one called the oscillographic synthesizer,
Uh-huh. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
oscillographic
Yeah.
synthesizer, which I thought was fascinating project and did remind me of us. Funnily, we were talking earlier about San Francisco. Scott Arford from San Francisco has done stuff with old CRT TVs,
Right.
but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of that came from James Connolly and I when we were in Chicago. James is a longtime collaborator and friend of mine, still in Chicago. We were both in school there at the same time, and we started a project called Cracked Ray Tube. And it was a noise project, effectively just using all hacked CRT televisions and feedback loops and sending like audio to video systems and transmission systems and a massive feedback loop that was just screaming and flashing. And we would work with stacks of these CRT monitors, just because at the time we wanted to do projection but couldn't afford it. So,
right,
but we'd go to the thrift store, and at that time, it's different now, but at the time, the CRTs were stacked in piles and being sold for like $5 to $10 a piece.
yeah,
And so we realized like we can make a video wall effectively out of stacks of these old CRTs, and would make these like sculptural looking things, these stacks, and then and perform on them. And then we got into things like learning about how like Namjoon Pike had been like processing and doing things to televisions for so long, and like studying him and his instruments that he had built. And so we started opening them up and adding like electromagnets to the inside so we could create like crazy wobbly looking imagery. So yeah, 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 that was a huge part of like working in the visual world. I did a
yeah.
lot of analog stuff before I did any type of like digital video processing stuff.
Yeah, I did just post the link from an article about the oscilloscope synthesizer from Durasta.
The
Uh,
Rostra, yeah, yeah, that
yeah,
was the name of the instrument that I made. Yeah.
ah, because
Hmm.
something that made me well, firstly, we'll get to in a second with Max's integration there, but something that it was interesting to me was that you got some actual the cables running into the television, where I've seen other people using electromagnetic stuff on the ray tube on the outside. You guys went inside.
Yeah, yeah, it was like super dangerous, but like in a great way. But yeah, we would just effectively like I learned how to wind my own electromagnets using like magnet wire and a drill,
Wow.
and would
Hell
just wind
yeah.
them for hours and hours and make these like really solid electromagnets. So I couldn't find any that were like what I wanted online, and I'd make them purposefully about the same impedance as a speaker so
Yeah.
that I could drive it with like an amplifier. And
Hell
then the
yeah.
amplifier didn't seem to care, so I would just send sine waves through it, and then that would effectively work, and put it inside right next to the electron gun of the CRT, and you get all sorts of weird stuff.
Wow, that's incredible. I love that you were making your own electromagnetic, winding your own
Yeah,
electromagnet.
James and I made a series of tutorials on it. So a lot of people were interested in it. So we put out like how you make the electromagnets, where to place them in the TV, and how to do the hacking and everything. I think those
Yeah,
still exist
with a
online.
big disclosure at the bottom. If you
Pretty
electrocute
much that, like,
yourself.
yeah, like, but we would talk about like how to discharge them properly and
Right,
stuff.
right, right.
Yeah, and like how to work with them safely.
It's funny how you talk about that you could just I do remember you could get a honking big CRT at the thrift store for a few bucks. They'd be like,
Yep,
please take it. Like it's taking up space. And
yep.
funnily I've just I love that old stuff and playing with it and how expensive they've gotten recently. Like if and finding one that works or finding a good unit or like they've gotten thrift stores don't even accept them anymore.
Nope, nope. They haven't for a while.
So
Yeah.
they're not there. And then the ones on eBay are just yeah, expensive. Yeah, it's kind of nuts. And it's interesting to think like maybe that was a period of time when only that project like now it's going to be really hard to do that kind of stuff. Like
It could only exist at that time, which is kind of the
right.
amazing part about it. Yeah. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, I highly recommend looking at James Connolly's most recent work. He's been doing a lot of it with VGA monitors and doing like
Nice.
really diving into like figuring out the whole system with the electromagnetic hacking. It's really, really good.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, there's certainly something to be said there for like art in obsolescence, like, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Well, and it's harder and harder to find like obsolete devices that you can use for anything. Nowadays, like when a device is considered obsolete, it's just no longer functional. But there was
right,
like a
right,
beautiful
right.
moment that we had these like old devices that we could still use for wacky stuff, dumber
Right.
devices that we could, artists
Yeah.
were really enjoying using.
Well, and they were analog too. Like you said, you could wind your own coils and like you could fix them quite easily with it as long as you had some solder and a soldering iron.
Yeah, and as well, it didn't matter what signal you sent to it, it was gonna try to display something.
Right, right,
Like it was like, I
right,
guess
right.
this is something. I'll show you whatever it is that you're sending me. So it didn't matter if it was audio, video, or it's somewhere in between.
Yeah,
It was gonna
yeah.
show it.
And now with digital, it's like, nope,
Yep.
we don't process that signal. Sorry.
Yep. It says something is wrong. I will block this. You don't want to see this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then the whole like, the boards being, SMD and like, it's just like you can't once like you said, like obsolescence means it simply doesn't even work or doesn't even power on. There's no way
Right.
to subvert it into being, creative or, you
Right.
know.
But I mean, the opposite is also true now. I mean, like with some of this advanced tech, I mean, it's not as dumb as it used to be, so you can't just like, play with it in the same way. But like the tech that artists have access to that's like free and open
Oh,
source is
right, right.
mind blowing. I mean, like the media pipe stuff that people can do for tracking nowadays, for like hand gesture tracking and everything, is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the new like I've been playing around with an Arduino 33 IoT that comes with, accelerometer and gyro built on immediately pipe it out to anything OSC for like 20 bucks.
Right. Yeah. It's bonkers.
You can
Yeah.
make your own glove for, probably less than 30.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And I did see in that article, I'll move on from this, but I'm just curious, like, where was Max integrated into the oscillographic synths?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So like most of the things that James and I did, and was very much so highly integrating like digital signal processing with analog tech. That Deraster project, the oscillographic one that I did, that one in particular, everything, all the audio and the visuals are actually all generated and driven from Max. And so effectively they were sending out, so like all the oscillographic display stuff was just sending out X and Y data out of two different outputs from an audio interface that I could
Mm,
use to drive the electron beam, right? So treating it like an oscilloscope effectively. So then I could sculpt my own visuals with it.
so cool.
Yeah, and then so I would make sets that were like, it was all the audio was generated in Max, so like what you hear, but then I would take that same data and translate into the visuals so that and sometimes like stuff that sounded good didn't look good, and sometimes stuff that looked good didn't sound good. So you had to find like that pairing between the two that worked really well. And then
Right.
I put sensors inside of it, like accelerometers and things, so I can move and swing the TV around, and that would send data back to Max, and that would adjust everything.
Wow. So I guess you guys got pretty fit doing that project, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a couple reasons I stopped. One was it was harder to find like the CRTs, but two, like my back was starting to hurt. And I had in touring with it, I did like small tours and stuff with like taking it to Europe and things like that, and it was a pain in order to
right.
work with that. So, I was kind of like looking to do something different there.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Were you shipping the CRTs out there or finding them there
I
and
would fly with them. I had a custom flight case. I only worked with like when I did like just the one CRT
right,
at a
right.
time when I'd fly with them. But James and I, when we toured with like a whole setup, yeah, we would load them in a car and drive them across the country.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love
hmm
it. That's cool. And what we kind of followed on from that project? Like you've definitely branched out into more multi-channel work a lot since then, right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think I started working in like multi-channel stuff when I was in school and just started playing around with some of it, and I immediately fell in love with the idea, and started doing like small multi-channel setups with just like whatever speakers I could find around just to like make something work and like
mm,
understanding it. And I think part of that was also understanding that like there's no actual rules to it. I think
right,
there's like that's like a misconception with like multi-channel audio, meaning like audio it's coming from around us in many directions. That there's this idea that we're like supposed to follow these like formats, and there are formats for like sound for film and things like that. But
right,
there's no actual rules to doing it. Like you can
right,
set up as many speakers as you want and just figure out how you want to route it and where you want to place them, and then you can create whatever kind of system you want. I think
right,
that was pretty liberating when I figured that out. That like
right.
I was trying to research and understand this stuff, and it's like there's no rules you have to follow. You can just explore stuff. And so Max was essential for me doing that because there was no limitations for what I could program inside Max's.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what kind of setup I wanted to work with.
I guess some of that misconception comes from, the big names, Dolby and the likes dominating that field in, theater and film and the general consumer thinking like, oh, it's a protocol and we need to adhere to that Atmos and but yeah, outside of those realms which have standards, uh yeah, gloves are off.
Yes. Yeah.
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 No,
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
remember something similar. Once I had four speakers and just setting them up in my room and running four channels and addressing them with phases and LFOs and stuff, and just kind of being like, "Whoa, this is actually really, really cool." Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
um,
I remember when I was in school, like setting up just like different sine waves in different speakers, and then playing them and getting those beating tones and realizing that like all of this like acoustic phenomena that is happening is like in the space. Like it's not even in the speakers right now, and like
right.
what you could do with that and like the power of that is just was so thrilling.
Right, because it's interesting to think like I know a few friends have been like, "Whoa, but we only hear in stereo." But like, do we? Like I
No,
think our
not at
perception,
all. Yeah.
right? Yes,
Mhm.
we only have two inputs, um, or 1.5 if we've not gone to too many metal shows when we were
Right.
younger.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but but the sound does come in, in from all dimensions.
Well, I mean, we as humans are like super good compared to even I think a lot of other species at spatial audio
Oh,
and like
right.
recognize like you close your eyes and just listen to sounds, you can tell exactly where they're coming from. That's bonkers. And then that we
Yeah.
can represent that in space and play with that, I think is so powerful.
I
It's an important feature that I think is often underrepresented. And you see it in sound for film and stuff like that, but in more just like general art and performance settings, I think just more and more people should explore it.
yeah, I think you touch on some interesting like sensual sense-based phenomenon there where you close your eyes and somehow you can pick where the sound is from easier than if you have your eyes open. That
Yep.
one always blows my mind. I mean,
Yep. Yep.
it's
Yep.
kind of it's a bird watching technique
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I learned that from I don't know if you know him, Lawrence English, Australian artist, runs record label Room 40, but he talks about his earliest sound experiences with his father teaching him how to birdwatch and how to find this
Uh,
very rare bird, and you do it by closing your eyes and tuning into to the sound, and like then you can find it.
no, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and so from there, this was all like the oscillographic synth was like early 2010s.
Yep.
When did you
Hmm.
start at, well, I guess there's two questions here. When did you start at University of Texas in their immersive media labs, and when did Data Lab come along? Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that whole trajectory. So Data Lab came around, and Data Geek came around a little bit earlier than my time at UT. I had been teaching like adjunct to different universities and stuff like that. So I've been working in education for a long time, and always that was like I knew that's what I wanted to do. Was like teach people these things that I was interested in. So Data Geek started first about
mm,
10 years ago. My colleague Barna Cantor and Lisa Woods started with the idea of Data Geek, and they said they wanted to do some classes that were focusing on art and tech. In fact, it was like Gray Area Foundation was a huge inspiration for that
right,
idea. And they reached out to me and were like, "Do you want to teach some classes? We want to try to do this thing." And I said, "Absolutely." So started with that, and immediately it caught on. People in Austin were interested, so we started teaching like Arduino classes. I did like one of the first classes I taught was programming in Max,
love it.
right? And this is yeah about 10 years ago. So doing like sound synthesis in Max, and we that it blew up, and people were really interested in it. And so we were like, okay, we need to make this thing serious. So let's turn it into what we need, like a board and a nonprofit and all of that kind of stuff, and make it
Mm,
like a real thing. So we've done that as well. And through this whole process of like Data Geek growing, we suddenly realized that like, well, a few things are happening. One is like we were always needing space, right, for
right.
classes and whatever. So we were like popping up in these co-working spaces that were around town back when that was a thing. There's just like these small boutique co-working spaces that they would lend us their space in the evening, and we
Nice.
would, we'd pop up there, and we became friends with them. And then we would pop up at other co-working spaces to do our exhibitions. So like the Data Geek students that were taking classes each semester would always get to show their work, right? And so we were always using these spaces. And eventually, we were like, we need our own space. And so that's when Data Lab came around,
Right.
right? So eventually, and we've been at a few locations. Our most recent one, we've been there for about 3 years
Yeah.
now. But we started Data Lab officially in 2019.
Right.
And it was we started as a space that we like. This is where we can teach our classes, where we can have events, but also we understood this whole world of like co-working. So
Mm.
we were like, this will be our way of being able to sustain. And actually, Gray
Yep.
Area has a similar thing with like studios. So similar model where we wanted to have like both artist studios, and it was programmers, people in tech, whatever. It was just space for people to work, and then we could have our events. And that's what helped sustain it,
Right.
right? And then, in addition to that, while all that was happening, people kept reaching out to us, and they were like, "Hey, this Data Geek thing is cool. I have this big event that I'm doing, and we need like cool projectors or immersive art installation. Do y'all do any of that for hire?" And like at the time, we weren't really, but we're like we could. And so that all fell under the umbrella of Data Lab as well.
Mm.
So Data Lab became not only the space, but also became our like more commercial facing immersive art installation arm. So when
Mm.
people reach out to us, these big festivals, companies or whatever, and they want like big, large scale immersive installation stuff, then that's all through Data Lab.
Right. 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 Yeah. I mean, you touched on something important there, and I think is like it's really hard to keep a space available and running if it's not being used all the time. Like, because like
Right.
you're
Yeah,
paying for it 24/7,
correct.
but
And
it's
yeah,
but often
it's
the case,
expensive.
yeah,
Yeah.
often it's not being used 24/7. Therefore, Yeah.
Yep. So we
Uh,
we do all sorts of stuff in this space. I mean, where we have multiple legs that we stand on. That's kind of just the way that you have to be,
yeah.
right? So we do our own events, but then when we're not using the space, we rent it out to other
Right.
people to throw their own events, right? And then we have artist studios there as well that we do. We this is also our space where we develop artwork as well. So it's a multifaceted machine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like these days, it's just like no matter where you are, real estate is yeah, hard to come by. And so yeah, being able to leverage it in several ways is integral.
Yep.
And from my visit, well, I was thoroughly impressed. I was like, wow, okay, they're working it. Like this is how you do it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, a lot of it is, I'd love to say that it's like, we can make a bunch of money, but so much of it is just like brute force making it happen, right?
right.
I mean, it's just like putting in the time and effort because you just want to make it work. And like, that there's going to be times that like money is not rolling in and that work is not stopping on it.
Yeah,
It's still going to keep going. And we've had to move around to a couple different spaces because of the real estate market and how it's been and like developments and stuff like that where our
right,
building gets taken over because they want to turn it into apartments and all of
right.
that. And so and then we have to start over and do it again. So it's been a whole process.
Yeah, I think I get asked sometimes like what I forget what the question is, but it's like kind of like what's 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 something that allowed you to have a career in the arts, and it's like, oh, I'm very stubborn, basically. Like I'm just,
Yeah, it's
the
effectively it. It's
brute
like, yeah,
force, not giving
ve-
up. Like,
yeah, very, very stubborn and being okay with like putting in like a large amount of energy and effort into something that you're not exactly sure if it's going to work or not.
right.
And then that's a scary thing, obviously.
Yeah, totally. I feel like that does get more comfortable as the years go on. Like you kind of
Right.
start to trust the process, like Newton's law, right? Like you put in a certain amount of effort, there will be a return.
Yeah, yeah,
How
I think so.
it's very Buddhist in a sense. Like you
Yeah,
don't know how the return will come often, but with time it appears. Um, yeah, I feel like when you're younger though, it's like, oh my God, am I doing all of this time? Like,
I know. Yeah,
what's
yeah,
what's going to result? Um, how do I present this to my parents?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I've always had like one foot in like the local art scene in Austin and like the nonprofit world and all of that, and one foot in academia as
right,
well.
right.
So and that's always helped with like stabilizing stuff and all of that because I've always had either adjunct positions or more recently at UT my full-time position to help to stabilize some of that. So education has been a great way because then I'm teaching this stuff I'm already interested anyway. So it's just another way for me to continue learning this stuff.
Right, right. And from what I can garner, Kyle, like it's a bit of a canon for you too, because the students inevitably work out that you're also running data labs and
Yeah,
data
we get
geek.
we get some really great students that come through like my department AET that are like, hey, do you need any extra hands at Data Lab or whatever it is, extra support and stuff. So it's always good to have these good people around.
And awareness too, I imagine, they just help with that in general, right? Like,
Hmm.
yeah. Um, when did you start at University of Texas?
Yeah, so I started here in 2019.
Yeah.
No, sorry, 2020. Yeah, 2020.
Wow.
Right before the pandemic. So I was started adjuncting right before the pandemic, and then went through the whole pandemic doing like online teaching and stuff like that, and then started full time about 2.5 years ago.
Nice, nice.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow. And some folks may be who've been paying attention as Kyle moves his hands um, during the stream right now may be seeing that he's actually at the University of Texas right now. And let's talk a little bit about this system you're going to show us, Kyle.
Yeah.
Curious.
So
I'm not even going to try and explain it.
no, yeah, yeah, no, all good. Yeah, yeah. So I'm at UT right now. I'm in the lab for immersive media. This is my department, AET, Arts and Entertainment Technologies. This is our newest lab. I helped found this lab with our chair, our department chair, Michael Baker, along with our Lim Lab manager, Brandon Lejeune, who you got to meet.
Yep.
Brandon Stargrave. That's his performance name. We all work together to develop this space, and it is like a sandbox of like art and tech. What's great about it is it's a very, very, very high end kind of tech that we get to work with, which was really new to me because I've been working with, like more in the realm of like hacking and circuit bending and all this stuff for so long and like glitch but that ended up actually supporting all of this so
Right.
well, I think, when I came into it. But there's many systems that run inside of here. This is a space for us to develop work, but it's also a space for students to. We teach the systems in here, and they develop their own works inside of here.
Amazing.
Um, there is multiple motion capture systems in here, so with the cameras all around. One of them that you're seeing is actually a marker-based system that's
Nice.
tracking just these clusters. In fact, it's nothing to do with the gloves. If I just these off, right, and they're actually
Uh,
tracked independently. So
yep.
it's just looking at these markers and tracking them. It's not that dissimilar from what you see in like motion picture animation development stuff, so like virtual production stuff.
Right, right,
What's crazy about it though is it's a tool that's, I mean, I think my entire life I've been wanting to do like, capturing motion and stuff like that, doing some stuff with Connect when that was around. And, like everything was like good, but just like not quite
right,
there. It's like there's always problems and it like never always worked. And this system is like used for scientific applications. It's down to sub-millimeter accuracy across the entire volume.
wow.
So and running at like 240 hertz or something like that. I mean, it's just crazy the accuracy that it had.
Damn.
So I mean, it's used for like these crazy scientific applications, and it's crazy because then like we're just like, now what weird stuff can we do with it,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
like
yeah.
how can we use this to like make crazy visuals, or like when I move around my body, something strange happens. So the whole point of this space is to create immersive experiences for art purposes that are all embodied, right? The intended intention is like your human presence does something. So you can
Right.
walk into the space and activate it in some ways, and the students can activate it in whatever way. So, we have multiple motion capture systems, lighting system. We also have spatial audio system, a 10 channel spatial audio system around the whole thing, projection system, like all these different things. And what's important when we developed all these and put them together, the main reason that we chose like these particular technologies that we wanted to work with was because of the way that they could communicate to the outside world. So much of
Right.
this tech was designed to just like analyze movement and like save it, or like just be used for like
Right.
motion picture production, and that like wasn't our interest at all. So like the ones we're choosing are like streaming out OSC data
Mm,
or whatever it is that like then we can capture and use. And that's where immediately when I came into the space and started realizing that we were streaming OSC, and it's like, how do I handle all of this crazy amount of data? It was Max, right? That was
yeah.
the first thing that I went to and started making Max patches that was like just bringing in this data so I could math it and do whatever and then send it to wherever it is I needed to go. If it's going to Ableton, going to Touch Designer or whatever. And so that's been a go-to tool for us inside the lab for routing data in different places. So just to show you like so yeah, overview of what's actually happening here. So I've got these two markers, and you can see behind me. Actually, here, let me share. Let me share.
I was like, while you were talking then, I was watching your hands behind you, and what's striking me about is the accuracy and then the lack of jitter.
Right. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you
No.
move
It's
your hand and and
uh-huh.
then like I could see when you put your hands back on the table, there's no like, none of this kind of stuff, which is
Right. Well,
so
what's
common
crazy?
to.
Yeah. What's crazy is I can see like when I move my hands down, like the markers bounce a little bit, like it's picking up that as like like tiny little
Wow.
movement. I mean, it's to the point that like it'll sense that like I can't hold my hand steady.
Right,
Like
right,
it's
right,
all of
right.
that. So
Yeah,
anyway,
but it's not jitter from the data or the
no,
chunking of the
it's just
data.
jitter from like my human being, you know?
Right.
Yeah, which is crazy. So we actually, our current artist in residence at the Lim, we're doing this artist in residence series. If people are interested in this kind of stuff, reach out to us because we're looking for more artists. But effectively, we're bringing artists, paying them to come in and work and develop cool stuff in here. And the most recent artist we're working with is Kat, otherwise known as the Poet Engineer. Anybody that works in the touch designer world may know her work. She's an incredible
Mm,
artist, local Austin. And she came in and immediately was using this for crazy stuff that we've never even thought of before, including like being able to track her individual breaths coming in and out. So we can actually see her breathe just with markers. It's insane. Yeah,
wow.
and like speech patterns and things like that. So it's crazy to have access to this kind of tech and then be able to do something with it. But like, so like, what's happening here? So like over here, I'm actually streaming the data. So this is Qualisys, which is running on a different machine that's like tracking these
Yep.
two objects, right? And they're it's called a 6 DOF, 6 degrees of freedom, right? So it's X Y Z roll pitch yaw, right? So like all the axes of where this like 3D geometry is, and I can take it and I can stream it all directly into Max. So you can see as I like move my hands around, I'm getting this variation in data that's happening. And this is like the perfect method. It's all OSC, by the way, how it's coming in here.
Wow.
So it's streaming in. I'm like slowing it down because there's like way too much data coming in. So I'm like, like slow your roll so I can handle this a little bit. And then unpacking it all here, and you can see like X, Y, Z, roll, pitch, yaw coming in here of each one of these objects. And I just get data. And of course, if you've worked with Max, then you know that you can just do whatever the hell you want with it at that
Right.
point,
Right.
right? Like, so
Yep.
like here's a sub patch that I made. This one, I found a formula online. I don't even remember how I did this, but I wanted to figure out like what was the total distance between my two hands in X, Y, and Z space, right?
Yep.
So like no matter what dimensions I was at. So like if I bring them together, you can see that it's a smaller value, and if I bring them apart, it becomes wider. So I can actually
Right.
not only control like where they are in space, but like the proximity of my two hands to each other as well. Which that's a really powerful tool, I think, for like performance and
Yeah.
thinking about like like almost like as if you're like holding something, or maybe it's like it's like my references to like Dragon Ball Z and things like that to be able to like morph and hold energy or something. So that's streaming there. The other thing, why I have these gloves on, just to show you another example of a thing. We look at another computer that's running, and let's see. Okay, so these gloves are called Stretch Sense gloves. So they are measuring just my finger movements, right? The bend of
Wow.
each one of my fingers. So these are used for animation. So like if you're doing like full skeletal tracking, like you're making like a movie and you need to do animation based stuff, and you've got the markers on, but you can't get the fingers. So this adds the fingers to it effectively. Once again, not at all what we're interested in using it for, right? So,
Right.
but what we loved about it is that all of my finger flexes stream out via OSC out of this software, right?
Wow.
So I can track like where my hands are and then the flex of each one of my fingers, and all of that data comes in. So if I see it in, here it is, here's like all these, like this is this hand right here. If I flex these fingers, you can see how they all kind of come in and out.
So
For
cool.
this, yeah, for this, I'm actually using them. Um, I'm turning it all. I'm formatting it, maybe inappropriately, but to MPE, right? So I'm doing like MPE processing with it. So it's all MIDI data because I'm sending it over to Ableton. But I'm doing like each finger is like a MIDI note, but also sending like out more like different types of channels as well onto it as
Yeah.
well. So I can control like multiple dimensions of sound as I'm moving my fingers around. So yeah, all of this then is going over to
Yeah,
Ableton.
this is where MPE is particularly great. Like, yeah, to add that
Absolutely.
extra, dimensional to to the
Yeah.
synth.
Well, and then once like Ableton 12 came out, there was all these updates with like adding all this MPE capabilities. Like
Yep.
so, like the grain scanner or not the grain scanner, but the granulator 3.
Yep.
I think it's the newest one that had all these MPE add-ons and stuff. So I started exploring that. Let me unmute and see if we can make sound here. So like as an example, I said flex individual fingers and I can make these sounds, but I can, depending on where my hands are located, change it. So,
Wow. I'll just mention too, Kyle is on a 10 channel system currently in the space, so we're not able to pipe it through the stream directly.
right, it's just playing out of the speakers in the space.
Yeah.
So y'all can hear it hopefully over the microphone a little bit.
We
But yeah.
can, we can.
Oh, good, good. So you can see here, like I've got a granulator, and if I move my hands in and out from each other, I can scrub the sound.
Lovely.
So like if I were to mute some of this other stuff, let's say if I do this, just focus on this.
Whoa.
It gets a pretty amazing control over this stuff. And like this
Yeah. The
this this
rubber
glove stuff,
band, like the
yeah, it's
what's
nice.
getting me is just how accurate it is. Like I'm so used to this stuff being a little more like jittery and
It Yeah, no, it's amazing. Well, I mean, and this is like, I think when I was in school, I was super inspired by Letitia Sonomi. She made
yeah.
the ladies' glove,
Yeah.
and like it was an early example of like using some of this tech with like flex sensors and stuff. And so when we just got this new tech and we needed to play with it, like it's like we need to develop a project just so we can understand it. I was like immediately I wanted to make a glove instrument, so
Right.
this was just one demo example of what we can build with it.
Man,
Yeah.
this is super cool.
And then so like, oh, by the way, you might notice this actual granular sound. That's actually, yeah. So that's I use the is that you sample that's in Max all the time, just as like a test, and then I couldn't find anything that sounded better for this project, so
Yeah.
I just kept it in there.
It's the same reason a lot of us use Zhongli or, Cherokee or others, because also the beauty of it is you're so familiar with it, right? So
Right.
you know what the effect is because you know the original so well.
Right. And then like here's like breakbeat.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff. So yeah, and there's a lot that we can do with it. Like raising my hand up or down and changing things, and all of that's coming in to here. You can see like uh, here's using like the wavetable synth. You can see like
Yep.
a filter right here that I can actually depending on expanding my hands out, open and close the filter. Right, so like all these different fun ways that we can control the sound.
I
And
feel
then like,
like,
the MPE stuff, it's like
yeah.
not just triggering the note, but also
Right.
like pitch bending as I'm pulling it down or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think the MP having that extra like filtering and pitch bending and sliding is instrumental to this. And I think what's fascinating in this, use of this technology is that often you're led to new types of sounds that you wouldn't typically get through, playing with a keyboard or using the MIDI piano roll or
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
And then like I think here, Brandon, I don't know if Touch Designer's pulled up. Is it? Let me see. Brandon's got this like cool because like we can take like all this stuff because since it's like all coming into Max, like I can
Yeah,
send it to wherever I want,
right.
right? So like I can send it over to like pull it into Max, and then I can send it over to another computer, all OSC stuff. Send it
Yeah.
over to Brandon, and then like he can grab it and let's see, there we go. Like he can grab it and like so he makes his own visuals like here, so that like I can change and stuff like that. So it's like we have this whole world of stuff that we can just start building on in different ways and
Oh
experimenting with.
wow. Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, it seems like Max is definitely playing the ultimate conduit there for allowing you guys to join all these different facets of this.
It works so well at that, and I think it always has
Yeah,
because we can stream in this data in whatever format that we want to, and be able to decipher it, do some math, and send it out to whatever we want to. And it's if we want to send it to Touch, if we want to send it to Ableton, is where usually I work with because I like working with all of the different Macs for Live devices. And there was a time when I would build all of my own granular tools and all of this kind of stuff in Max. But then now these devices that they have built into Ableton are just
right.
so amazing.
Yeah.
So it's like there's such a great integration to be able to pull it directly in that way.
Yeah, and I think that we've reached a time now where I still remember, and it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, where a big reason why you would do everything in one thing, like you do everything in Ableton or you do everything in Max, is that trying to run multiple applications on an old Intel or PowerPC, you're really stretching it, and then you were playing with fire, like is it going to
Yeah,
crash? Is it? But
yeah, yeah,
especially in the last 5 years, we've made some massive jumps in power,
absolutely. And
computational power. And so, yeah, running Ableton and Mac side by side and touch is like totally
yeah,
feasible.
and having like the communication platforms that have become
Right.
easier, right? Like one of the big things that we teach to students, I like, and maybe it's not exciting. They come in and they're all excited about like motion capture or whatever it is that they're learning about these kinds of things. And I'm like, the cool thing that you're going to learn is how you make stuff talk to each other.
Yeah.
And like that's going to translate to everything else,
Yeah.
right? So, and that's where the cool stuff happens. It's not going to
Right.
happen just in like it's not going to happen just in Unity or Unreal. It's not going to happen just in Ableton. It happens when like these things talk to each other.
Right.
And then that's when like really something quite extraordinary starts to develop.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And it's like stacking in a sense. It's like same thing. I'm seeing the same thing in audio production. Like I see younger generations and I'll look at their door and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And they're like just got 10 different copies of Serum stacked on top of one
Yeah.
another and like stuff that we just couldn't get away with 10 or
Right. Yeah.
15
Yeah.
years. And like now you can stack software on top of one another and,
Yep.
and the computer is just going to chug along just fine. Like,
So for my one of the things that I do, I've got like a solo project, Pulse Coder, and I do those live AV performances stuff. And it used to be very much so that I would have one computer that would be running just my
yeah.
audio based stuff with like Max and Ableton or whatever it was that I was running, and then I would have a PC that would be running all my visual based stuff with Touch Designer, Resolume, or whatever. And now it's all one machine,
Yeah.
right? So that can
Yeah.
do everything. So and I think it makes it that much easier to make the
Yeah.
software talk to each other. And hopefully it's more and more artists are getting into to doing that kind of crossover work because there's so much power there.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, it's gotten a little more difficult to travel now these days with carry-on limits getting lower and lower and, security and whatever. I must say, I do like going around with a more minimal setup,
Yep.
um, while still having as much power as I used to have. Like, yeah, it's the best. And I do think too, you mentioned something there, having it all on one machine, it just opens itself actually to more exploration, I think. Like, because often, yeah, you would get stuck in the weeds getting that protocol from one machine to the other, especially when you're starting out, and that often, can lead to frustration or giving up or
Right. And that's why, I mean, like, that's why when we're teaching our students here, it's like not be scared of that kind of exploration,
yeah,
right? To like not be scared of like, it's like, oh, this system is not working for me, but what if I just integrate it with this system that does do this kind of stuff, and then the
right.
collaboration between the two, and you're not breaking any rules doing that, you're actually doing the good thing.
No, I think the rules are always meant to be broken. It's where the interesting stuff happens, in my experience.
Yeah, that is true.
Uh, wow, this is incredible. Yeah, this is great. I want to come and play on that.
You gotta come by.
I
Yeah, yeah,
gotta
yeah. You
come
gotta come by.
by.
We've got so many cool demos that we can show you.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then students are developing work in here. They're making anything from from experiences with motion capture to like video games that are doing tracking. So there's all sorts of stuff, and they're all experimenting with spatial audio and lighting design in here, and bringing all those things together. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
Wow, so you guys have got a lighting rig in there as well?
Yep, yep.
Wow.
So yeah, we've got like a full DMX programmable lighting system that, and then we can just, it's the same thing. We can use motion capture to send that data over to there and control the lights with whatever we want. So, and that's like our main priority in this space is like making sure that none of the systems we're using are some kind of like proprietary
Right.
system that can't talk to the outside world. Even if it's a proprietary, technology, it's like as long as that data can get out, and then
Yeah.
like we can interpret it and process it and bring it into places like Max or Touch Designer, then that's what we're happy with.
Yeah. Oh man, OSC just continues to get more and more legs as technology grows too. It's
Yeah,
just, yeah, that's awesome. I love the flexibility of OSC, I must say. Like,
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
it might be the ultimate Swiss Army.
Yeah,
It's even got
it
me
kind
out
of
of
is. Yeah.
it's got me
Mhm.
out of trouble before too. Like, yeah. Um, Good stuff, Kyle. This is incredible. So folks, we're getting along in the stream. If you've got any questions for Kyle, drop them in the chat, and I'll ask Kyle for you. Kyle, what do we got? What do you got going on in the near future besides grading and wrapping up the semester?
Wrapping up at the end of the semester, that's it, right? Yeah. Tomorrow we're having our, every semester we have usually some kind of like big showcase of student work. Tomorrow is our yearly event, Audio Pixel Collider, where
Whoa!
students produce all the content. There's the live music performance with like Ableton push controllers and like the music production class. We've got lighting designers that are creating all the visual, the lighting design for it, and then we've got VJs that are doing all of the video content that were in my
Wow!
real-time video production class. And they all come together and they get paired up into teams and they just produce the whole event. So we give them the infrastructural support, and then they are 100% the content, which is fun. So they get to like perform out of this great big event and see all their work in real time. So
That is
that's happening.
exciting.
Yeah, that's happening tomorrow on the UT campus. So that'll be good. A lot of fun. Later on, we're having, I know, up here at the on campus as well, Frank Vigreau. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but
Yeah,
really amazing artist. He's coming through because I know he's on tour right now. So he's hitting a lot of spots. In Austin, he's coming up next. So that's going to be, I think that's December 7th. I think that's Sunday.
yeah.
So pretty soon. So that's going to be a really good one as well.
Yeah, and what's happening over at Data Lab in the next couple of months? Like,
We have had like an absolutely insane fall. So like we're just coming off of it, right?
nice.
So that's kind of like a break, hopefully, is what's
Yeah,
coming up. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But we are doing some work. We did this last year. We're producing some visual work for the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. They do this really large scale outdoor immersive light festival in
Yep.
Austin. And we're creating a really cool laser forest for them. So working with
Hell
laser
yeah.
technology and trees and all sorts of stuff. So that's the kind of stuff that we've got coming on like out there. And then
Nice.
we do have a slate of stuff coming up in the spring and in winter. We're going to continue our touch designer meetup as well. So you can come and if you're touch designer people, come and hang out. And then we've got some really great stuff coming up. Well, it was actually sponsored by the College of Fine Arts here at UT. A fellow faculty member, and me got a grant to do a project that we're calling CAST, the Contemporary Art and Sound Technologies. We did a call for works, and people entered visual artists and music artists as well. And we're going to have in March a week of performances with some
Wow.
of these international performers. So a lot of experimental music approaches and visual artists that are creating content for those performances as well.
Wow. I honestly, Austin is a hotspot. I mean, folks, if you're anywhere near Austin, definitely tune in to what Kyle's doing personally, and also the facility that he runs at Data Lab because everything I've seen, everything I see, everything I've experienced is top tier audiovisual art experiences. So yeah, Kyle, you're working at another level.
Well, thanks, man. But yeah, it's I mean, fortunately, we get to work with a lot of like pretty amazing artists coming through. So that's a bit, and that's really great when it's sustaining like that, and we get people reach out to us like you did to be like, hey, what is happening here? I'm coming through Austin, and then so we get to work with all these amazing artists. So
Yeah,
now it's now it's really great because we
it's
get to communicate with people that we never would have met previously.
yeah. I mean, it's the logical thing. I mean, I always knew Austin was a musical city, and it's pretty world renowned as that. But like that, it should also be a very technically, technology pushing, creative, electronic. Makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, and
And
you'd expect there'd be a lot more actually inside of Austin. Once you're inside of it, then you know that there is like this huge tech scene, there's this music scene, but it has been honestly, a lot of energy goes
yeah,
behind making sure that people understand that this is a world we should be paying attention to,
yeah,
right? This integration with art and tech, and especially with electronic music. Austin has a huge music scene, but not necessarily with electronic music. I mean, that has
right.
developed, right? But that took a push to get people, wanting to dive into that territory. If people weren't, holding a guitar, it was hard for them to process it. But I think
Yeah.
we're there now. We're finally there.
It seems like it, right? I mean, yeah, people still struggle with the laptop as an instrument, even though it's the most powerful electronic music instrument. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, Suits a Step is in the chat. He has a question. Have you ever had any issues with loop MIDI or IAC driver crashing?
Yeah, so loop MIDI certainly. So I will tell you that I try whenever I'm doing anything that's like doing any like MIDI routing or audio routing and stuff like that. I try to do it all in Mac because it's just easier to work with those kinds of routing because there's a lot of preset stuff with those kind of drivers. Loop MIDI will work with, and it's been pretty stable for us. Now, what will happen though, if you're not careful, and what we've come across with this kind of stuff is like slamming data coming out of it.
Mm,
Like I said, it's like coming out at like 240 hertz. And if you're not careful, you can like have like a repeat note that's just like slamming out, and then like loop MIDI will just like shut down or something or like
right.
block. Right, so that kind of stuff you do have to be careful of because the system will just stream. And some solutions for that is making sure, like working with like speed limiting your input, right? Inside of Max, I'm talking about like working with speed lim that will like slow down your input a little bit, but then also making sure you're working with objects like change. So like you're only sending out data when something is different. So you're not sending out like these stacks of like thousands of repeat notes in like a second, you know? Because that kind of stuff I know, I've had experience for sure that's crashed. We've never had any problems with it crashing outside of like us doing something wrong with it, though, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely I've crashed the IAC driver bus a couple of times, but yeah, that's been my experience too. It's like when you get a little heavy-handed with the through rate and
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, and then also, accidental feedback loops. That
right,
can be a thing when you're doing some like serious processing, and then that can you can screw up some things pretty quick that way. And there's
right,
kill switches on those drivers that will just shut down.
right. Yeah, I've never had too much trouble though. I found just restarting the IAC driver bus, turning it off and on, you're
Seems to do the trick.
back into business. Um, the stuck MIDI note is a thing, but yeah. Nice. There's not too many other questions here, but there's some folks, Data Lab is single-handedly helping me get over the weird doorless mentality that was holding me back. Um, great
Nice.
Grace,
Yeah. Mhm.
Grace said that. And Cinta says, "Hi, Kyle." Um, Yeah. Kyle, this is incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your world with us. I think there's probably a handful of Austin folks here, and I think there's some, I know I'm seeing some other folks from definitely outside of Austin who I'm not sure if they were familiar with what goes on there, but they are now. And yeah, I mean, I honestly think it's one of what you guys are up to out there. It needs to be more recognized within this country, but also outside of this country. I think, um, I love your enthusiasm for pushing the boundaries and breaking rules.
Yes, that's I mean that's what you have to do. Absolutely, that's the point. Yeah, and we
Yeah.
like to work with artists that have that same mentality.
Yeah, I think there's something there, like you guys definitely have an inviting, you're very inviting. It's a very inviting space, Data Lab, but you're also not playing, but you're on the other hand not playing it safe with like the enthusiasm for pushing things and pushing boundaries, but I guess those two go hand in hand because you're you feel comfortable to push yourself, and if it goes wrong, it goes wrong, and that's fine. It's part of finding those boundaries.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. Um, those spaces are so important. There's a classic one in LA called Coaxial. It's still running. It's a multifaceted space on South Main Street, just south of the 10 freeway in downtown LA. And I've always seen it, and it's always felt like this space that you can truly push the envelope there, and if it all goes bad and all goes south, that's totally fine. No one's gonna crucify you.
Yeah.
Like people kind of if you're playing there, people are expecting you to go 110, you know?
Yeah. We have this incredible series that is hosted at Data Lab. It's actually run by Melissa Seeley, who's been running it for a long time. It's called Memermo Monday, and it's been around for years. I don't even know if it's like 10 years old or something that she's been doing, at least eight, if not more.
Wow.
But it's that she hosts it almost every Monday at Data Lab. So it was before Data Lab was even around. She was doing it at different places. But almost every Monday, she's hosting an event, and it's always like an eclectic group of artists. It can be like the craziest collection. It can be like some insane touring free jazz artist coming in that's like legendary, and then like the person afterwards is like a power electronics kid that's never done anything in his entire life. It's like the
Yeah.
first show they've ever done. It's like you never know what you're gonna get, and it's like that's like the perfect safe place
Love
for
it.
like for these kinds of experimentations because
Love
then
it.
like people can come and be like, I don't really know what the result of this is going to be, but like I'm going to explore it and I'm going to do it in front of people, and like it's
Yeah.
going to be a group of people that are going to be cool with it no matter what. So that particularly, I highly recommend people coming out to those if you're interested in coming out to some Data Lab stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in general, they're my favorite shows. I find shows that I go to where maybe I know the artist too well or something, and I have expectations. Um, you know, maybe my expectations are unrealistic, um, but you know what I mean? Like it's those are the sweet gigs where you come expecting nothing, and then your mind is just completely expanded by the time you
Yeah,
leave. And
absolutely.
as someone that also is creative, often you leave with ideas on how or new ideas on how you can possibly expand your own creativity or your own thing, or maybe unlock some idea through the immersion. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, Kyle, there's large praise for you in the comments and a large praise for Data Labs. I hope we've helped get the word out a little more today. And yeah, I appreciate you spending the time with me.
Yeah,
Thanks so much.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure thing. Thank you so much for having me, man. It's been great.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, folks, we're going to wrap it up now. We're taking a little break for the holidays, Thanksgiving, and the likes. There'll be no office hours next week, but we will be back in December. We're planning slight alterations to the office hours. We'll be here on the YouTube with a slightly different mix up for December. So stay tuned on all the socials for the announcements for that. And until then, happy patching. We'll see you out there. Bye, folks. Bye, Kyle.
Bye.
All right. That's a
Cool.
wrap. Good stuff,
Good.
mate. That
Nice.
was
Thanks, man.
awesome.